After being up for over 24 hours on our last day in the barn, we needed a place to sleep for a bit. One of the local public parks would do the trick.
This could work.
Because we've been so focused on getting as much done as possible while at the barn, we didn't quite have a plan on where we were going to go once we started driving. After a quick search, we found Greener Pastures Eco Farm on Harvest Host and went for a tour. We're going on a farm tour.
Oh yeah! Farm tour today.
There's an enormous pig right here. Huge pig.
I like this pig. Hi kitty, like little piglets.
So I don't know how much you have learned about us before you decided to stay with us, but we have been farming for about 6 years now, since 2015.
Cool.
And we started in kind of a little hamlet on a 3/4 acre property.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, Carl, I think you met him last
Yep.
week.
Yep.
He kind of grew up on a lot of acreage, was able to raise pigs and chickens and a couple cows growing up, so he's always had a love for animals.
Cool.
So kind of carried that love into a hobby when we met and got married and started our own family. But the 3/4 acres in this little hamlet, we had some chickens, backyard chickens. Turned out not to be allowed. So we said, all right, well, nuts to this, we're going to go somewhere else. So, which prompted us to move to a 15-acre property just about 10 minutes north of here.
And when was that?
That was, oh goodness, let me think. That was in 2015. We moved to the 15-acre property when our youngest was 1 year old. And just kind of started it as something for our own family.
Yeah.
We had 3 girls, and at that time we just realized we don't know what goes into our food. We don't know how it's grown or produced. We didn't have that good connection with it. And for us, having kids kind of pushed us into wanting to know where our food came from, wanting to know what was in it, all that sort of thing that you start to think about and reflect on when you're busy buying things from a grocery store and not having that connection, right?
Right, just consuming.
Exactly, yeah. So there wasn't that relationship there. And then, of course, beyond that, having that respect for things when you're intimately involved in growing it, of course, is a whole other level that we've kind of learned as we've gone through this process.
Yeah.
So that kind of is the twofold thing of what prompted us into this, is both Carl's love of doing this as a hobby when he was younger, and then kind of out of a desire to raise our family a certain way. So
he didn't have to talk you into it.
Well, no, not too much. We watched like all the documentaries and a lot of YouTube videos, read a pile of books, followed all the farmers, the great visionaries who've kind of gone before us, right? So in that respect, didn't have to convince me. I, however, am a city girl. Grew up definitely in this, watch your step here, in the city, knew nothing about farming other than my romantic ideas of what it could be, right? So a little bit naive for sure. When I met him, he was already doing the farming, of course, because he had started about age 8 or 9, I guess.
Wow.
Raising chickens and pigs. So I did all the mucking out of stalls and, feeding animals and packing them up and whatnot.
So you did
So I
that with
kinda-
his
I
family,
knew-
like when you were visiting?
Yeah,
You'd go
exactly.
do the
Yeah,
chores?
yeah.
Cool.
So I did kind of know what I was getting into, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's been a crazy journey ever since.
Wow.
Right? So, anyways, it's not something that I ever pictured myself doing.
Yeah.
But here we are, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
So this
beautiful.
location that you're on, how many acres is this?
So yes, so we started at 15 acres, and then we had an opportunity to move here in 2020.
Uh-huh.
So right when the lockdown hit, we moved that week,
Wow.
March of 2020. So
Holy
that
smokes.
was a ride. But this property is 75 acres. So
75.
it just gave us so many opportunities for growth, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
we can be here forever, right?
Yeah.
The bush is 25 acres.
Wow.
And the plan is to use it all. We haven't actually fenced all of it yet. We're kind of fencing as we go right now.
That's
Easy,
probably
guys.
expensive.
Well, yes, or time, right?
Yeah.
To try and save expenses on the money side, you're compensating with your time. So,
Right.
so we're building kind of a perimeter fence as we go, and then we're
Cool.
using everything as much as possible here is mobile. So
Yeah.
these are actually chicken fences,
Cool.
but that's the visual. And then pigs only need the one line.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've looked at, you can get fencing units that have the solar attached to them.
Yeah.
And for like, if we were doing our chickens on kind of a half acre or
Yeah.
something, that could work. But for the sheer volume, like the size
yeah.
of our system, there's
Yeah.
nothing yet that we've been able to get a hold of that would do the entire system. So
Right.
right now we're just attaching everything to the wider fence, which has its struggles sometimes.
Yeah.
I think the other day we took maybe an hour of our time to just go around the entire property and clip everything back. And
Yeah.
Wow.
so it does take time to maintain and make sure it's working at full capacity.
Yeah.
Do you make sure it's working with your hand, or do you use an actual
There
tester?
is an actual tester. We sometimes inadvertently use our hands and find out that it's working.
You're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, exactly.
A little
Okay.
shocking.
They'll also give you the strength, of course. So
Yeah.
it's it's not constant or anything like that. Our
Yeah.
kids have been zapped, we've been zapped. So it's not ideal, but it also at least lets you know that it's not something severe enough to actually hurt the
Yeah.
animals. It just
Yeah.
deters them right
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
going near it. So
That's great.
anyways, yeah, so this is the pig operation.
What kind of pigs
So-
are these?
So we have kind of the reddish looking ones are Tamworths. And then we've got Berkshires in here, are the kind of black and white ones. And then these spotted ones are kind of a combination. Carl was telling me the other day, like you cross any two breeds and you get spotted pigs. So this, we have been the last few years farrowing all of our own pigs. So like naturally breeding them, and then having the piglets here. The last two breedings, I know you just got shocked. The last two breedings we did not yield good results from a piglet standpoint. So we actually did need to buy in piglets, which is why we have all the different ones. Ordinarily, they're all the red.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, very, very low rates this year, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
And then being able to buy them in is also a tricky thing sometimes, because you want to get them from reputable places and
Right.
like-minded farmers. And 2020 and
Yeah.
2021 have kind of, anybody who ever thought of raising a couple pigs or doing something of that nature, growing their own food, is doing it. We raise belted Galloway cattle. They are a heritage breed, and they're quite a bit of a smaller breed than normal. So you won't see a lot of farmers raising the Galloways unless it's like a Galloway cross or something, because the carcass weight is a lot smaller than a lot of other beef cattle. We love them. They are great at mothering. So their mothering abilities are excellent, which means they can just drop a calf and we don't have to get involved or intervene or anything like that.
You don't have to go up to your shoulders.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
They are also one of just a couple breeds that will grow an extra coat of hair in the winter. So they're ideally suited to a pasture system. because they can be outside in the really, really harsh climates and weather.
So you don't have a barn for them?
Well, we actually do. It's mostly for the odd day when you have like freezing rain, sleet. That'll build up on their coat and make it not very comfortable. And then the other reason we have the barn now is if we need to take them off of pasture for the land's benefit, right? So here we're on a lot of clay, and we found that there are several times, both in the fall and the spring, where they can just really do a number on the pasture. So there's a couple weeks on either side where we kind of play it by ear, but we can pull them off or we can put them back out. They do have kind of a pasture area around the barn, so they have the choice if they actually want to go in or not. But at least we have the option, so because you don't want them being uncomfortable, of course. So.
They're beautiful.
I like their little fringe haircuts.
I know.
Who's their stylist?
Great haircut. Some of them have curlier hair, and others, like if they have a bit of the Highland mix in them, then they will get more of that, that fringe look.
They're so cute.
Greener Pastures Eco Farm tour was extremely detailed, informative, and went on for about an hour. When setting off on our journey, we were originally going to go on a huge research project learning about the life of homesteaders while documenting their stories of off-grid living, food sovereignty, and one's ability to be self-reliant.
With the gained knowledge, we would someday start our own homestead. However, things don't always work out as we plan. During our build, the world took a backflip. Considering the time we're currently living in, this threw a wrench in our original plans from September of 2019 when we started our bus build.
Fortunately, we were able to meet some cool people along the way, allowing us to ask important questions which, unknowingly to us at the time, would soon prove to be valuable.
Don't worry, you'll hear more about how our story unravels in the near future.
So here's the $1 million question.
Okay.
If knowing what you know now, if you were to restart an operation from scratch, what would you do and why?
Oh, that's a good one. I think probably making sure that the infrastructure is in place before bringing animals in, which is huge from like a financial standpoint, right? Because a lot of it is you're trying to make money while spending it, and keeping those two in a good relationship, right? With the money coming in faster than it's going out, which doesn't always work. But for sure, like spending weeks and weeks doing the pigs, right? Like almost every available weekend is spent building fences or that sort of thing. And if we bring in the sheep, like it's gonna have to be like there's just so much prioritizing that has to happen, right? So if we could go back and redo it, at least for my part, it would be making sure that all the infrastructure is in place before we bring the animals in, so that it's a little bit more maintenance and management as opposed to infrastructure and maintenance and management and all that stuff. So
that makes sense.
Same thing with the building, like we just got that up. There's another building in behind this coverall that we just got up this spring. So now we have a place for like hay storage and grain and milling and mixing to happen. But before that, right, you're constantly doing everything in small batches, and you're running out here to grab a dozen bales of hay, and now you're out again, and so having those options available is huge. It just simplifies the system so much. So for me, that's a big part. But I'm a planner. I'm like, everything needs to be in a row before I jump at all, right? So again, Carl and I are extremely different people, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't work so well, but here we are. But also, if it were up to me, then I don't know, would we even have started yet, right? Because everything just needs to be fully good before I take the leap, whereas Carl's like, leap and look later.
I think that's a man's perspective, though.
Right? So, So for me, but you would have to ask Carl and see. It would be interesting to see where we differ on our answers.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
No
This is wonderful.
Really cool.
If anybody wanted to find you, what is the best way to contact you?
So probably emailing us directly
Okay.
to our farm email address,
Okay.
greenerpastures.ecofarm@yahoo.ca.
Okay.
We have a website, greenerpasturesecofarm.ca, and all of that can be, like all our contact information can be found on there.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram account. My sister-in-law, who's better at social media than we are, she manages all of that, but we will get a hold of your messages and make sure to write you back as soon as we can. So,
Very good.
Cool.
Well, thanks so much
No
for
problem.
taking us on this
you're
tour.
welcome.
We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks
Yeah.
for coming along.
It's amazing. Really something to be so proud of what you guys have
Thank
going
you so
on here.
much.
The next month, we honestly took a break from filming, but captured a little bit here and there. After staying at Greener Pastures Eco Farm, we headed to visit our friends Deni and Ang, as well as Jem and Rob. We even got to help them work on their Skoolies a couple of times.
And we got a little bit of work done on ours too. But honestly, we were just happy to visit and super grateful to stay in their driveway.
Yeah, if we do like an inch leather strap or something like that,
Yep.
then that'll be plenty to hold them in place while we're driving.
So cool. That's gonna look awesome. And then we're gonna do another row of plates and bowls.
Yeah.
And then we'll have our straps to hold them in while we're driving.
Cool.
Our next step was visiting our friends Kristen and Andy along with their family at a cozy little cottage in Halliburton. It was such a fun and relaxing time on the lake, something we definitely needed after working our tails off for 23 months on our Skoolie.
Oh damn, look at that view. We're just cruising down the road at 80 kilometers per hour. Enjoying the view and the scenery. We're slowing down, we're going uphill now. From there, we definitely needed a plan because winter was nigh, but we had a couple of options. Option one was to stay with a family on their 400-acre homestead in northern Ontario. During our stay, we would help on their farm for the winter and learn the ropes in exchange for a place to overwinter.
Holy shiza.
This is sketch.
Oh my god, we're gonna do this? Alright, baby, you got this.
Let's see what it sounds like.
Freaking waterfall over there.
No creaking.
Alright.
All right. So go straight.
The problem? There was very minimal internet, and we love you guys way too much not to upload videos regularly. So that, unfortunately, was a deal breaker.
Little did we know what was waiting for us in our future. Option 2 was a rent-to-own situation in way northern Ontario outside of Timmins. The deal was 10 acres for 300 Canadian per month. It sounded like a dream. The land was completely raw and a blank slate for us to create our own homestead. Supposedly there was a water well that we could use, and the landowner was going to cut a road to whatever property we wanted with a driveway.
The longer we were there, the sketchier it felt. We parked at the end of the country road and we were warned by a local guy not to drive off the gravel road or we would sink into the swampy soil up to our axles, and no one had big enough machinery to pull our big blue beauty out.
The guy looked scared for us.
We were even having nightmares about it, and neither of us trusted the situation.
After 3 days of sussing out that location, we decided to hightail it out of there. But then what?
The clock was ticking, winter was approaching fast, and our options were disintegrating before our eyes.